Today, we are diving into a type of romantic devotion that is so intense, it's actually treated like a spiritual discipline. Yeah, you heard that right. This goes way beyond your average crush. We're talking about the level of sacred ritual. So, let's unpack it.
Everything really kicks off with a line like this one. It's incredibly intense, it's poetic, and, let's be honest, it is definitely over the top. But this one sentence from a character named Jaru, well, it opens up a whole world of cultural rules and spiritual meaning.
And that really brings us to the big question we're asking today. How on earth does a simple crush get transformed into a full-blown sacred path? Let's figure it out.
So let's meet our guy, Jaru Tarahavez, and his all-consuming devotion to a girl named Pepi. The key thing to get here is that in his culture, feeling things this strongly isn't just, being obsessive. It can actually be a legitimate path.
I mean, they actually have a formal system for this. It starts off pretty innocent at level 1, petal gazer, but it escalates through these really poetic stages like moon listener, all the way up to the final, top tier, Kasorin of the Pepi path. And as you can probably guess, our man Jaru is playing in the big leagues.
And this perfectly sums up how his mind works. Someone gives Pepi a compliment, and he doesn't just see a nice comment. Nope, he sees it as someone finally waking up to a fundamental truth he's known all along. His job isn't just to protect her, but to protect the very idea that she's always perfect. But why?
Well, the answer is buried in the cultural rules he was raised with. So let's start with the code for Arreqqana men, because it's basically the spiritual blueprint for everything he does.
It's called the Kasorin Volume, which means the path of steady flame. And its core ideas are devotion, loyalty, and, this is important, quiet power. This isn't about being the loudest guy in the room, it's about being the most dependable, the most solid.
Okay, so take this moment. It's raining, and he gives up his own comfort, even calling his own suffering an honor. Now, on the surface, it just looks like some extreme, maybe kind of weird chivalry. But when you tie it back to the code,
You realize he's literally acting out one of its main principles. Power is not loud, it's loyal. See, his strength isn't shown by dodging the rain himself, but by his loyalty to protecting her from it.
And this mindset shapes everything, even his daydreams. He's not fantasizing about being some big hero who conquers the world. He dreams about creating a small, safe bubble for her in the middle of a crowd. It's all about subtle, protective action. And that fantasy? It's a direct expression of Keanu's loyalty. This idea that once you're connected to someone, you become their unwavering guardian. You don't let go first. So his daydreams, they're not just romantic fluff. They're basically him practicing his cultural virtues in his head.
now this guy code doesn't just exist on its own. It's one half of a whole. It works in perfect harmony with a matching code for women, which is what defines what Jaru sees as being so worthy of all this protection in the first place.
And the two codes, they just mirror each other beautifully. His quiet power is balanced by her nakia, this idea that softness is its own kind of strength. His silence is called a forge, a place where things are made, while her voice is a vow, something sacred. It's this amazing system of complementary beliefs.
And this saying is right at the heart of the girl code. It's this idea of an innate, internal worth, a glow. So when Jaru says Pepi is glowing, he's not just trying to be poetic. He is referencing a core spiritual concept that his own code says he has a duty to recognize and to protect.
But wait, because to really show you how deep this system goes, it's not just a simple binary. There's a third, equally important path that exists between and even beyond the other two.
This one's called the Ilanakara Vyasha, or the flow code, and its principles are totally different. Instead of steady flame or an innate glow, this is all about flux, about reflection, about holding opposite states at the same time. It's a really beautiful way of acknowledging fluidity inside this otherwise pretty structured world.
So with all that cultural context, let's circle back to Jaru. This simple two-line poem from one of his private journals, it just distills his entire worldview, doesn't it? He's collapsed a person, a spiritual concept, and the feeling of home into a single, powerful idea.
So you can probably see where all this is heading. We're making the case that what looks like a simple, if intense crush from the outside is actually a form of prayer, and it's being spoken in a really complex cultural language.
All of his grand gestures,
His quiet protection, those poetic one-liners, they are not random. They are the vocabulary and the grammar of a language of devotion that people in his culture understand and, on some level, even expect. He's performing his cultural role perfectly.
And he says it himself. He makes the connection totally explicit. In his most private thoughts, he is directly comparing his feelings for Pepi with religious devotion. For him, they aren't just similar, they're exactly the same thing.
In fact, the culture has a very specific term for what he's doing. This phrase right here, it literally translates to, "He who walks the sacred Simp path for Pepakila." It mashes up modern slang with ancient sacred language, which just perfectly captures what's going on here. It's kind of a joke, but it's also a serious spiritual title.
And this is really the most important thing to take away from all this. Jeru's behavior, it isn't some weird quirk. It's the expression of a recognized, even if it's an extreme version, spiritual path. He is living out the path of steady flame through his devotion to one person.
So, in the end, what we're really watching is this beautiful, complicated performance. It's a blend of the sacred cultural codes we've been looking at, his genuine personal feelings, and yeah, a little bit of that dramatic flair you'd find in a rom-com daydream. All of it fuses together to create the sacred Simp.
Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. In a world where devotion is so tangled up with cultural identity and spiritual rules, can you even pull the two apart? Where does Jeru the person end and Jeru the prayer begin?